Your choice for today: the Blitz meets the occult, or the ghost of Christmas past meets an oil tycoon. We'll start with that second one, the Ghost of the Christmas Past meets an oil tycoon, which is very much the theme of George Saunders' new book called Vigil. And this comes to us from Bloomsbury. Now, it's a little bit reminiscent of the Lincoln and the Bardo, in that we are in that limbo space where spirits have come into the mortal world. And it is it's a shorter, it's a novella really, 192 pages. It's super playful and gives you lots of things to think about. We basically have, the story is channeled through Jill Blaine, or Doll Blaine, who is on her 340-something mission as an elevated being, which means she kind of wanders she hasn't quite made it to top tier heaven. She's a sort of a limbo person whose mission in life is to give comfort to dying souls. The dying soul in this case is KJ Boone, who is an oil tycoon. And as we go through the story, we learn that he hasn't been the world's Nobel Peace Prize winner for niceness. There are a few contenders there, but she, in an attempt to comfort him, tries to make everybody feel good about what he's done. And really, as time goes on, she's beginning to see that that's a bit hard. It's a very hard task for her. Into this story comes also this Frenchman who is also a spirit or ghost of a French engineer who invented the combustion engine. And sort of we're looking at history and how our wonderful inventions that kind of produced capitalism and may or may not have been super good for the planet. It's a novel where there's a very overt theme. We are looking at the climate. We're looking at progress on what climate has done, and we're looking at regret. And does this tycoon actually, is he going to end up having any of those? What's he seeking at the end of life? And can she give it to him? And her own, there's a very nicely done part where there's a party actually going on in the house next door. And we're kind of looking at this distance between life in all its smallness and its meanness, but how very rich and how very precious it is. I thought it was a funny, poignant, sort of what Saunders is really, really good at, and I know he's the master of the short story, so this is kind of an expansion of that, but not the same big canvas as Lincoln and the Bardo. But the dialogue is to die for. And some of the concepts of sort of, reassembling right down to what your shoes were, are very, very funny, and some of those reassemblies don't quite work. Yeah, a lot of imagery to keep your brain occupied, and that great question, do these big buck people ever feel any regret? Who's to know? That is the first one. Again, next novel, which is a similar sort of playfulness, and they are very similar this way, is Francis Spufford's Nonesuch, which comes to us from Faber and Faber. I adore this one. This is the Blitz meets the occult, and lots of jolly splendid people, and it's so tongue-in-cheek. We have a young girl. It's mostly told through the eyes of a young girl, Iris, who were in early 1939. I have said the Blitz, so yeah, we're in London, and she works as a clerk in a stockbrokers in the city, and she has ambitions. This is a girl who knows about sort of Keynesian economics, who can kind of take on male thinking on this, but she's very limited by what a woman was expected to do in those days, which was basically do your duty and get back to the kitchen, woman. And she's a bit of a good time girl, so it's kind of her way of getting her own back on society. She's quite liberated that way. And she's a lot of fun. So she's not your demure good girl, nor is she a bad girl. I mean, those don't come into it. It's about who she meets, why she meets them, and what she thinks about herself and her ambition. Into this picture at a nightclub where she's accompanying one of her friends, she comes across two people who will figure in the rest of this novel. One is Jeff, who is a sound engineer, who is obviously smitten by a very sort of brittle young woman, Lal, who's very blonde, very pert, very pretty, very petite, but who has very overt fascist leanings. Jeff is smitten, and when this girl is kind of a bit bitchy towards Iris, vamps and totally seduces Jeff and takes him, he takes her back and whatever. And there begins the possibilities, at least, for a very messy, poignant, very, very tender love story. But into this, Spufford has so much fun. Comes this, Iris feels she's been watched and followed by a kind of an unusual figure that sort of is not made out of newsprint and is real and it isn't real. And it turns out that Jeff's father is part of this secret society. And what that society does remains nicely mysterious, but part of the story is that people want to use this society to go back and change events in time to alter the outcome of the war. But Iris, with her determinedness and her fabulous brain, thinks of a way to see, can she stop terrible things happening, and what will be the price to pay. It's an absolute romp, and there's one of those things with these novels that go back to the war and go back to the Londoners in the war, that they're, in anybody else's hands, you'd be sort of saying, is this kind of a mangled triumphalist sort of, weren't the British wonderful with their undefeated stoicism, and they got on with things and everything turned out all right in the end. And that's not, Spufford can get away with letting us believe that is what is necessary when the world is faced with fascism. That getting on with things, sticking together and fighting the good fight is all very, very real and very valid. So another one from Spufford, which plays with history, plays with time, but allows us to explore the possibilities of, even what we might be going through now. I hate doing this because it's really lectury, but this is what great novels make you do. They make you look at things. And these are two great novels. So that's it from me. If you have enjoyed this, you can like and subscribe. Please do. It helps me. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.